How many deals do you lose every single month when prospects say, I just need to think about it? You think they're being polite, but they're actually leaving you for good. Most sellers think this is all about objection handling, but it's not. This is about frame control and why you're getting this objection in the first place. So I've been selling for 15 years now, and I've audited hundreds of sales calls in the last 18 months alone. And I can tell you that the very best salespeople don't ever handle this objection. They eliminate it before it even exists, just through proper positioning. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to avoid this objection completely. But I'll also give you 2 precise responses to use for this objection, just in case it does slip through. A direct approach for open prospects, and then a strategic approach for more guarded buyers. Both the prevention and the cure. And stick around until the end because I'll give you one final tip that was a complete game changer for me. It stops you from endlessly chasing prospects who disappear after saying, I need to think about it. So look, here's the brutal truth. 90% of sellers actually create this objection for themselves, and they have absolutely no idea that they're doing it. So let me give you an example. I was auditing a call only last week for a web development agency. Now, the seller spent about 45 minutes showing an e-commerce business owner how their current website was causing a ton of visitors to abandon their cart. And he presented a solution that would increase conversions by 25% in just 30 days. Now, the business owner, who was literally losing 8K a month in sales due to poor conversion rates, said, I need to think about it. And that was the end of the call. Lead gone cold and deal likely gone too. Think about that for a second. He had just shown them that they were bleeding revenue every single day from cart abandonments, costing them about 8K a month, yet they still felt comfortable in delaying that decision. That's what happens when you fail to control the frame and you give them permission to delay. So here's what he did wrong. He never set up decision-making rules up front. He never created urgency around time, and he positioned himself as someone who needed their approval by saying, so what do you think at the end of the call? What he should have done was establish right from the very beginning that if they agreed that there was a problem and if they saw value in his solution, they'd need to make a decision by the end of the call or at least within the next day or so. Not ask for their opinion right at the very end. And I used to make this exact mistake too myself. I'd spend hours building the perfect case, then hand all of the power back to them at the end. And my close rate was terrible until I learned this next part. Elite sellers prevent this objection through 2 things: frame control and urgency creation. So first, establish frame control in the first 5 minutes with something like, so look, if we establish that this is a fit, I'll show you exactly how we can work together and we'll look to progress this today. If we both agree that it's not a fit, we'll part ways and we'll end the conversation there. But either way, let's be decisive so we don't waste each other's time and prolong things unnecessarily. Does that sound fair enough? Now, can you see how this forces a decision by the end of the call? It's either a yes or a no, but I need to think about it is no longer an option. You've eliminated it before they even think to use it. Now, most sellers also don't understand that if you've built enough urgency by properly showing them their problem and then demonstrating the value of your solution, saying, I need to think about it would be completely irrational and it would make them look stupid, and they know that. Look, here's what I mean. If you're selling to a business losing 10K a month and you show them exactly how to stop that bleeding starting from next week, I need to think about it becomes completely ridiculous. If you're talking to someone whose website is down 20% of the time and you can fix it in 48 hours, delaying the decision makes absolutely no sense. Think about it this way. If someone's house is on fire and you're offering them a fire extinguisher, they don't say, let me think about it. If their car breaks down on the motorway and you offer them a lift, they don't need a week to decide. So the urgency that you can build around their problem, combined with a clear timeline for your solution, kills any hesitation that they might have. And when the pain is immediate and the fix is fast, thinking about it is never an option. So to prevent this objection entirely then, own the frame from the beginning and create real urgency around their problem. Because when you can do both, they can't retreat into, I need to think about it, because you've made waiting look completely illogical. But let's be honest, some prospects are just indecisive by nature. Even when you've done absolutely everything right, they'll still throw out, I need to think about it. So here's exactly how to handle it when it does slip through. Now, these are the 2 exact responses that I use so you can take control of the objection instead of reacting to it. First, the direct approach, which I use 80% of the time with more open prospects, and then a slightly more strategic approach for more guarded buyers who really don't like being sold to. Now, both work You just use them in different situations. But first, just a very quick note, I've actually put both of these frameworks plus how to prevent this objection into a free guide to help you during your sales calls. So just grab it from the first link in the description if you want to download it. But let's start with the direct approach. Most sellers panic when they hear this objection and immediately they try to argue with it. And that's why they lose the deal. And I know because I used to do this too. The second someone said, I need to think about it, I'd start rattling off more benefits and features, hoping that something would stick and it would keep them interested. And my close rate was terrible, somewhere below 10%. But then I learned this direct approach, and within a month or two, it pretty much doubled. Here's exactly what I started doing. So here's the direct approach that works maybe 95% of the time. You say, yeah, look, I totally get that. And I'm the same way. I like to be 100% sure before making a decision too. But before we hop off, do you mind if I just ask you something really quick? Notice how I said before we hop off. This reduces all of the sales pressure because they think the call is ending. It gives them an out. Plus, when you ask, can I ask you something really quick? They always say yes because the pressure is completely gone. So when they say yes, you continue with, look, I've been doing this for a while now. And usually when someone says that they need to think about it, it comes down to one of three things. You're not fully convinced that this will actually get you the results that you want. You're unsure about trusting me or the company, or you'll know it'll work and you want to do it, but it's just about the money. Are any of those the case here, or am I completely off? And here's why this works. First off, you're agreeing with them instead of fighting with them, and that lowers their guard. Then you give them three safe options that cover the real reasons that people hesitate. So you're giving them permission to be honest about what's really bothering them. Instead of hiding behind, I need to think about it, they'll tell you the real issue so you can handle it right there and then. That's how real objections are surfaced and how real deals get closed. Because now they'll tell you exactly what's stopping them and you can handle it there and then in order to close the deal. No more guessing games. Now, if you're dealing with someone who's slightly more guarded, we also need a strategic approach to this objection too. This is the technique that separates the top 1% of sellers. So let me give you an example. Last month, I was coaching a seller who tried the direct approach, but the prospect was still being super evasive. So he switched up to this strategic method, and within 2 minutes, the prospect revealed that it was actually a spouse objection. So he managed to handle it right there and then, and he closed the 10K deal. This is a guard down technique. So first you agree to them going away and thinking about it, and then you create a time frame. Look, totally fair. What's your time frame for getting back to me then? Tomorrow or the next day? Just so I can check whether I'll be available. This does three things. It raises your status because experts aren't available 24/7. It creates urgency because they feel that the deal might vanish away. And most importantly, it makes them think that you're about to leave, so their guard drops. And then once they give you that time frame, you ask, look, just before I go, what were you hoping to go over in your mind? Just so I know what questions you'll have when we talk again. And so your tone is really quite curious. You're not pushy in any way. Think of it like a doctor asking about your symptoms. You're genuinely interested in helping, not selling anything. They're not being sold to, they're being understood. And that's when they'll open up. They'll reveal the real objection. Money, spouse, timing, trust, whatever it might be. But now you can address the actual issue and close the deal instead of chasing them for months. So I use both techniques depending on the situation. The direct approach for more open buyers and then a strategic approach for more guarded buyers. Either way, you get to the real objection and you close the deal. Now, before we wrap up, there's one crucial mistake that I see sellers make all of the time, even when they use these techniques perfectly. This final tip changed everything for me because it stops you chasing deals that were dead the moment the call ended. So if you can't get the buyer to commit to a yes or a no after using either approach, you absolutely must book a follow-up call with them in the next day or so. If you don't have something in the calendar, let me be completely frank, nothing will happen. So if you don't control the next conversation, there simply just won't be one. Here's what I mean. Don't let them say, I'll call you back or I'll get back to you soon. That's basically like throwing your deal into a massive black hole. Without a firm appointment booked in, you'll end up endlessly chasing your prospects who never pick up your calls and never respond to your emails. So instead, say something like, look, no problem. Let me grab my calendar and we'll book 15 minutes tomorrow or the next day so I can answer any questions that come up. What works better for you, morning or afternoon? It's almost like being a tour guide. You don't let people wander off and then hope that they find their way back. You keep them within the group and you guide them to the next step. So if you can't get a decision today, at least get control of the next conversation. Otherwise, you're just hoping that they'll remember you exist while you're still stuck sending follow-up emails that simply get ignored. This one change alone transformed how I handle follow-ups, and it stopped me from becoming just another salesperson chasing ghosts. So now you know how to prevent and handle the I need to think about it objection. But here's the truth, if your positioning is weak from the very start, you'll still be chasing deals for the rest of your life. And that's exactly why elite sellers flip the frame before they even pitch, so their buyers chase them instead of the other way around. So watch this video next to learn exactly how to do that. It will show you how to shift the entire dynamic, so buyers qualify themselves to work with you.